Hey guys, it's Fiona, your former Wattpad and fanfic author. Today, I wanted to talk about why you should be putting tropes into your novel. Before we get started, we should talk about the difference between a trope and a cliche. A cliche is an overused, predictable saying, character, or plot point that loses its overall appeal, while tropes are creative tools used in storytelling. And yes, before you ask, some tropes can be cliches. I'm going to use my own story to break down how tropes are used and how not to fall into the cliche pit. How many times have you guys heard these tropes? Enemies to lovers, a love triangle, the chosen one? Did you groan a little thinking of how repetitive they are? These tropes can easily become cliche themed. What makes them different is how an author handles these tropes. In the marketing world, tropes are a good thing. When you have recognizable tropes, the reader knows what to expect and is often exactly what they want to read about. It's your blurb on the back of the book that tells them whether or not they want to read about your characters. So, tropes work, whether you want them to or not. Let me give you another example. My story uses a lot of tropes. The entire reason I started writing mating season was because I wanted 1,000,000 reads. Now, this may sound a little conceited, but I was 18 and had some minor success on fanfiction and other Wattpad stories, but I wanted to prove to myself that I could write a popular novel. And that got me thinking, if I want 1,000,000 reads, then I should look at what popular stories on Wattpad are doing. I use those tropes to understand how to get more views. You may be wondering now, well, isn't that being inauthentic? Or isn't that wrong to try and chase what people think is popular rather than what you want to write? And yes, maybe part of it is. But this experiment taught me so much about writing and what readers enjoy that I never would have learned if I didn't try this. First off, my Wattpad book is a werewolf story. I purposefully picked that genre because it was the #1 genre on Wattpad in 2012. Now, I was not a werewolf girly at all. I love Twilight, but I was definitely more into vampires than werewolves, but vampires weren't really quite as popular on Wattpad in 2012. But I started a brand new Wattpad account, and for my best chance to get seen as a new author on the website, I crammed as many tropes into this story as I could. In a way, I wrote Mating Season as a parody just built on popular tropes, and honestly guys, I was also very curious if this was even going to work. The most views I'd ever gotten was a couple thousands on Wattpad. Granted, that's pretty good, but I had no idea if I'd reach a success of 1,000,000. So, let's get in the tropes I used for this story. It was a werewolf story, it had fated mates. The main love interest was super possessive and obsessed with the main girl, while she completely rejected him. An old friend of hers returns and confesses to her, so the story's suddenly a love triangle. And he also turned out to be a vampire, which, another cliche. They shared a tent at one point too, I think. I basically filled as many tropes into this story as I possibly could. Let me clarify right now that as I've improved as a writer, I don't have to lean heavily on tropes to write a story. So please don't start to think like, oh my god, this girl is writing a book with a bunch of random tropes in it. In my calls with agents, both had praised me for my characters being interesting, and my mentor even said one of my story plots was original because she'd never heard of it before. So I promise you the story I'm writing right now is not gonna be like Mating Season with 1,000,000 tropes. But back to Mating Season. I will tell you right now, I think those tropes are what made Mating Season popular on Wattpad. I think all these tropes combined are really what people wanted to read. But as I'd said earlier, the reason why everyone wasn't calling it a cliche is because the way I handled the characters, the plot, and the twists. Ironically, I did have people commenting how original they thought my story was for a werewolf novel. My goal was never to make it original. I honestly thought sticking all these tropes together would make it the most cliche story. And I never wrote Mating Season with any kind of seriousness when I started. It was more of a fun, silly kind of story. I would spend less than 1 hour on each chapter, and some chapters were only 800 words long. So 1 million views with 17 chapters with that little work was kind of insane if you think about it. But all in all, people will read tropes. Even if it's the same sunshine and grumpy trope that they've read 100 times, people will keep looking for that and keep reading stories with that trope. So if you want a story to kind of stand out in a way, you kind of have to add the tropes, which kind of sounds like the opposite of what you should be doing. I know. But to categorize your story, especially for a publisher, and if you're trying to market your story, having these tropes are going to get people invested before they even know anything about your story. Because if they already have a plot point that's going to happen in your book that they like, and that's all they know, there is a good chance they are still going to pick up that book to at least read what that's about. So yes, tropes are a very good thing to have in your story. They do not have to become cliches if you do it properly. And honestly, they just make marketing your story that much better. I used to think in the beginning that if I used tropes in my stories, they were so unoriginal and no one would like them because they were cliche. It's kind of the opposite for that, because first of all, no story is original. Like, every single story has already been told, so don't even try to think that you have to be above the cliches, because everything's been told already. I also wanted to go over some of the tropes you can use in your stories. Now, mind you, a lot of them might be romance tropes I mentioned here because, as I've said in the past, I am a romance writer. I will always be writing something with romance as the big theme of the story, but I will try and include other tropes that are not just romantic tropes, because this is a writing channel for anyone to listen to and learn about, because I love writing. You might turn off some readers to your tropes as well, especially some like love triangle, because a lot of people do not like that trope, but it doesn't matter. If there's one story where some people don't like it and some people do, you could write another story, don't include a love triangle. Your motive here is not to try and please everyone. You are trying to get your tropes across to get the audience who likes that to read your book. But you can have tropes like the chosen one. A found family, enemies to lover is a big one. Sharing one bed, love triangles, second chances, one bed, the reluctant hero, the rich versus poor, the CEO and like the your name girl, that's a big trope. Forbidden love, friends to lovers, secret identity. You could have the best friend, brother, sister, also big one. Fated mates, fake relationship. Now, I want to do a fun exercise with you guys because I love my exercises on this channel. And I want us to each pick 3 of these tropes and to make a 2-sentence story out of them and see if that appeals to anyone. Because I can guarantee if you take 3 of these common tropes and then just put your characters around those themes, someone's gonna like it and someone would read it. I'm going to pick the fake relationship story and I'm gonna have these characters share one bed. The only problem? The male love interest actually has amnesia, and he's met this girl before and he hated her when they met. He would not give her a second chance. But after recovering from his injury and forgetting how much he wanted to take away her home and destroy everything she loves, she convinced him to go into a fake relationship with her, and now they're sharing a bed. And she's praying that he never regains his memory and recalls that he hates her because she's falling in love with him. Do you see how I took 3 elements that were all tropes and kind of made a story on top of that? I'm sure, and this might honestly be a movie or like a story plot already. I feel like I've heard it. I kind of just did this on the fly, so again, if it's not original, I'm sorry, but I just want to give you guys an example of how you can take like 3 tropes and make a story out of them, and they work. Because personally, I think that would be an interesting story. Like, technically they were enemies. He was going to destroy everything she had. He has amnesia like after, so he forgets, and she convinces him to be in a fake relationship with her. Again, I do think this is already a plot of some stories, so I'm not taking credit for this plot necessarily, but I just kind of wanted to give you an idea of how this exercise would work and how you would create a story based on a bunch of tropes. So I encourage you guys in the comments below to comment whatever your story might be. Feel free to look up more tropes, again, especially if your genre that you want to write in is not romance. You might want to look up other tropes for other kinds of genres and see what comes up. But yeah, this was a fun, again, little experiment. You guys know I love my little writing experiments. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope this was helpful for your own writing. See you in the next episode. Bye!